Throughout the tapestry of human civilization, certain warriors have carved their names into the very soul of history itself. Though their techniques, armor, and weaponry differed vastly across cultures and eras, they all shared an unbreakable spirit and an iron will to fight that has immortalized them in the chronicles of time. This exploration reveals the most lethal and feared soldiers from across the spectrum of human civilization. Number 10. British Redcoats. During the height of the British Empire, when the sun never set on British dominions across the globe, the soldiers known as Redcoats became the instrument through which British power was projected to every continent. These disciplined professionals transformed the art of linear warfare into a devastating system that dominated battlefields from India to North America, establishing British military supremacy for over 2 centuries. The distinctive red uniform that gave these soldiers their nickname served multiple purposes beyond mere identification. The bright scarlet color was chosen to inspire confidence in British troops while creating a psychological impact on enemies who faced ranks of identically dressed soldiers advancing in perfect formation. The visual effect of hundreds of red-coated soldiers moving in unison was both impressive and intimidating. Redcoat training emphasized discipline and precision above individual initiative, creating military units that could maintain formation and execute complex maneuvers under the stress of battle. Soldiers drilled constantly to achieve the split-second timing required for effective volley fire, where entire ranks would discharge their muskets simultaneously before reloading in coordinated sequence. The Brown Bess musket served as the primary weapon of Redcoat infantry for over a century. While individually inaccurate by modern standards, these smoothbore flintlocks became devastating when used by well-drilled troops firing in coordinated volleys. The psychological impact of massed musket fire, combined with the physical destruction it caused, could break enemy formations and demoralize opposition forces. Redcoat tactics reached their peak effectiveness in the linear warfare of the 18th and early 19th centuries. Soldiers formed lines 2 or 3 ranks deep, maximizing firepower while maintaining command control and mutual support. These formations could advance under fire, deliver devastating volleys, and follow up with bayonet charges that completed the destruction of enemy forces. The flexibility of Redcoat organization allowed adaptation to diverse theaters and enemies. They fought conventional European armies in formal battles, countered guerrilla tactics in colonial conflicts, conducted siege operations against fortified positions, and served as Marines in naval operations. This versatility made them invaluable instruments of imperial expansion and control. The American Revolutionary War showcased both the strengths and limitations of Redcoat warfare. Their disciplined formations and professional competence made them formidable opponents in conventional battles, but they struggled against the guerrilla tactics and popular resistance that characterized much of the American conflict. Despite ultimate defeat in North America, Redcoat forces continued to demonstrate their effectiveness in other theaters. Redcoat legacy extends far beyond their military achievements to encompass the role of professional military forces in creating and maintaining global empires. Their organizational methods, training systems, and tactical innovations influenced military development worldwide, contributing to the evolution of modern professional armies. The era of the Redcoats ended with changes in military technology, tactics, and imperial organization, but their impact on military history and global development remains significant. They represent the peak of pre-industrial military professionalism and the power of disciplined, well-trained soldiers operating within effective organizational systems.
Number 9. Apache Warriors. In the harsh landscapes of the American Southwest, The Apache tribes forged a warrior tradition that emphasized individual skill, intimate knowledge of terrain, and guerrilla tactics that frustrated and defeated much larger enemy forces. These masters of desert warfare demonstrated that superior numbers and technology could not overcome fighters who knew their homeland intimately and refused to accept defeat. Apache military culture began with childhood training that emphasized survival skills, physical endurance, and mental toughness. Boys learned tracking, hunting, stealth movement, and the ability to survive in environments that would kill unprepared individuals. This foundation created warriors who could operate independently in terrain that hindered conventional military forces. The Apache relationship with their environment provided their greatest military advantage. They possessed encyclopedic knowledge of water sources, hidden trails, defensible positions, and escape routes across thousands of square miles of desert and mountain terrain. This intelligence network made them nearly impossible to corner and allowed small bands to evade much larger pursuing forces. Apache weapons reflected both traditional craftsmanship and practical adaptation. They excelled with bows, lances, knives, and war clubs, while readily adopting firearms when available. However, their most effective weapons were mobility, knowledge of terrain, and psychological warfare that demoralized enemies through unpredictable attacks and seemingly supernatural ability to appear and disappear. Their tactical approach emphasized small unit actions, surprise attacks, and rapid withdrawal that maximized their advantages while minimizing exposure to enemy strengths. Apache warriors could strike supply convoys, isolated settlements, or military patrols before vanishing into terrain where conventional forces could not effectively pursue them. The horse transformed Apache warfare after Spanish colonization, providing enhanced mobility for long-distance raids and rapid tactical movement. Apache horsemanship rivaled that of Plains Indian tribes, allowing warriors to conduct operations across vast distances while maintaining the stealth and surprise that characterized their fighting style. Geronimo represents the epitome of Apache military leadership and resistance. His small band of followers evaded capture by thousands of Mexican and American troops for years, demonstrating the effectiveness of Apache tactical methods against conventional military forces. His eventual surrender marked the end of Apache military resistance, but not the end of their warrior reputation. Apache military traditions emphasized individual prowess and personal courage while maintaining strong bonds of tribal loyalty. Warriors were expected to demonstrate bravery in combat, skill in hunting and raiding, and the ability to survive independently in hostile environments. These qualities made them formidable opponents even when vastly outnumbered. The Apache Wars demonstrated that military technology and numerical superiority could not guarantee victory against determined opponents fighting on familiar ground with superior tactical knowledge. Their resistance inspired both fear and grudging respect from their enemies, who recognized their exceptional skills even while fighting against them.
Number 8. Mongolian Horse Archers under Genghis Khan. From the wind-swept steppes of Mongolia arose the most successful conquerors in human history, led by a man who would unite fractious tribes into an unstoppable military force that carved out the largest contiguous land empire ever created. The Mongolian Horse Archers under Genghis Khan revolutionized warfare through their unmatched mobility, tactical flexibility, and psychological warfare that terrorized enemies from Korea to Eastern Europe. Mongolian military supremacy began with their unique relationship with horses. In a nomadic culture where survival depended on animal husbandry and seasonal migration, children learned to ride before they could walk properly. This intimate bond between warrior and mount created cavalry forces with mobility and endurance that sedentary civilizations could not match. The Mongolian composite bow was a technological masterpiece crafted from layers of wood, horn, and sinew that created a weapon powerful enough to penetrate armor at considerable distances while remaining compact enough for mounted use. Warriors trained constantly to shoot accurately from horseback at full gallop, developing skills that modern military forces would find impressive even with contemporary equipment. Mongolian military organization reflected their nomadic origins while incorporating sophisticated tactical innovations. The decimal system organized forces into units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000 tumens, creating a flexible command structure that could coordinate massive armies while maintaining the mobility that was their greatest advantage. Their tactical repertoire included feigned retreats, coordinated archery barrages, and rapid concentration of forces that confused and overwhelmed enemies accustomed to more predictable warfare. The Mongols could appear to retreat in disorder, drawing pursuers into ambushes where fresh units waited to attack from multiple directions. Psychological warfare was equally important to Mongolian success. Their reputation for utterly destroying cities that resisted while showing mercy to those that surrendered created a climate of terror that often achieved victory without battle. This calculated brutality, combined with their exotic appearance and seemingly supernatural mobility, made them legendary figures of fear across Eurasia. Under Genghis Khan's leadership, Mongolian forces conquered the Western Xia Kingdom, the Jin dynasty in northern China, the Khwarezmian Empire in Central Asia, and advanced deep into Europe and the Middle East. Their military machine seemed unstoppable, adapting to desert warfare, mountain campaigns, siege operations, and naval battles with equal effectiveness. The Mongol military system incorporated innovations from conquered peoples while maintaining their core advantages of mobility and archery. They adopted Chinese siege engines, Islamic administrative systems, and European metallurgy, creating a truly cosmopolitan military force that combined the best elements from multiple civilizations. Mongolian influence on world history extends far beyond their military conquests. Their empire facilitated cultural exchange, trade development, and technological transfer across Eurasia. The Pax Mongolica created safe passage for merchants, scholars, and diplomats, contributing to the development of the modern world system.
Number 7. Samurai warriors of feudal Japan. On the isolated islands of Japan, a warrior culture developed that would become synonymous with martial excellence, unwavering loyalty, and philosophical depth. The samurai represented far more than mere soldiers. They were the embodiment of a complete way of life that integrated combat skills with spiritual development and moral philosophy. The word samurai derives from the verb saburao, meaning to serve, which perfectly captures their fundamental role as loyal retainers to feudal lords called daimyo. This relationship formed the foundation of Japanese military organization from the Heian period through the end of the Edo period, spanning nearly a millennium of warrior dominance. Samurai training began in childhood with education in multiple disciplines that created well-rounded warriors and leaders. Physical training emphasized archery, horsemanship, and swordsmanship, with the katana becoming not just a weapon, but a sacred symbol of the samurai's soul. Mental training included strategy, tactics, poetry, calligraphy, and tea ceremony, creating cultured individuals capable of both warfare and governance. The katana sword represented the pinnacle of Japanese metallurgical art and the spiritual center of samurai identity. These curved blades, folded and hammered from multiple steel types, achieved legendary sharpness and durability while maintaining symbolic significance as repositories of the warrior's honor and ancestors' spirits. Bushido, the way of the warrior, provided the philosophical framework that governs samurai behavior both in battle and in daily life. This code emphasized virtues including rectitude, courage, benevolence, respect, honesty, honor, and loyalty. Bushido demanded that samurai be prepared to sacrifice their lives for their lord or their principles, with ritual suicide, seppuku, serving as the ultimate expression of honor. Japanese warfare evolved sophisticated tactical systems that maximized samurai effectiveness. Early periods emphasized mounted archery, with samurai serving as elite cavalry, capable of precise shooting while riding at full gallop. Later periods saw increased emphasis on sword combat and the development of complex martial arts schools that refined fighting techniques to extraordinary levels of sophistication. The samurai class dominated Japan's military conflicts for centuries, from the Genpei War that established the Kamakura shogunate to the Sengoku period's constant warfare that eventually unified the country under Tokugawa rule. Their tactical innovations, including the effective integration of ashigaru, foot soldiers, with samurai cavalry, created military systems that successfully resisted foreign invasion and maintained internal order. Samurai culture produced legendary figures whose exploits became central to Japanese identity. Warriors like Minamoto Yoshitsune, known for his tactical brilliance and tragic fate, or Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest swordsman in Japanese history, embodied the samurai ideals of skill, courage, and philosophical depth that continue to inspire admiration worldwide. The Meiji Restoration of 1868 officially ended the samurai era as Japan modernized and adopted Western military organization. However, samurai values and traditions remained integral to Japanese culture, influencing everything from business practices to martial arts to the conduct of Japanese military forces in subsequent conflicts.
Number 6. Ottoman Janissaries. The Ottoman Empire's expansion across 3 continents was spearheaded by one of history's most innovative and effective military units, the Janissaries, whose unique organization and training methods created a fighting force that dominated battlefields from the gates of Vienna to the shores of the Indian Ocean. These elite infantry represented a revolutionary approach to military recruitment and organization that gave the Ottomans decisive advantages over their enemies. Sultan Murad I established the Janissary Corps in the 14th century as his personal household troops, loyal exclusively to the Sultan rather than to regional nobles or tribal leaders. This direct loyalty eliminated many of the command and control problems that plagued other medieval armies, creating a unified force responsive to central authority. The Defshirme system that recruited Janissaries was both controversial and brilliant. Christian boys from the Balkans were taken from their families, converted to Islam, and raised within the Ottoman system specifically for military or administrative service. This practice ensured absolute loyalty to the Sultan while incorporating diverse populations into the empire's power structure. Janissary training was comprehensive and demanding, transforming these recruits into highly disciplined professional soldiers. Physical conditioning, weapons training, and tactical instruction were combined with education in various crafts and trades that supported military logistics. This well-rounded development created warriors who could adapt to multiple battlefield roles while contributing to the empire's economic strength. The Janissaries were organized into ortas, regiments, each with specialized functions ranging from infantry assault to artillery operation to engineering support. This organizational flexibility allowed Ottoman commanders to tailor their forces to specific tactical situations, whether attacking fortified cities, fighting in open field battles, or conducting siege operations. Among their most significant innovations was the early adoption of firearms. While European knights and infantry were still adjusting to gunpowder weapons, Janissaries became expert marksmen with muskets and skilled operators of cannons. Their firepower advantage often proved decisive in battles against opponents still relying primarily on traditional weapons. The distinctive Janissary uniform, featuring the white felt cap and colorful robes, served both practical and psychological purposes. The visual uniformity reinforced unit cohesion,
while the exotic appearance intimidated enemies unfamiliar with Ottoman military organization. Their military music, featuring drums, cymbals, and fifes, became famous across Europe as the sound of Ottoman military might. Janissary discipline and morale were legendary. Unlike feudal levies or mercenary bands, these professional soldiers fought for their corps, their sultan, and their empire with unwavering dedication. This esprit de corps, combined with superior training and equipment, made them nearly unbeatable in conventional warfare for several centuries. The Janissaries played crucial roles in Ottoman expansion into Europe, Asia, and Africa. They captured Constantinople in 1453, ending the Byzantine Empire. They conquered much of the Balkans, advanced to the gates of Vienna twice, and established Ottoman dominance over much of the Eastern Mediterranean and Middle East. However, their very success eventually contributed to their downfall. As the Janissaries gained political power and social privileges, they became increasingly resistant to military reforms needed to counter new European tactics and technologies. Their eventual abolition by Sultan Mahmud II in 1826 marked the end of an era in military history.
Number 5. Knights of the Middle Ages. The medieval period witnessed the rise of perhaps history's most romanticized yet genuinely formidable warrior class, the knights, whose combination of martial skill, technological superiority, and cultural ideals dominated European battlefields for centuries. These heavily armored cavalry represented the pinnacle of military evolution in their era, transforming warfare through their unique blend of individual prowess and collective tactics. The journey to knighthood began in early childhood for boys of noble birth. At age 7, they left their families to serve as pages in the households of established knights, learning fundamental skills of courtesy, religion, literacy, and basic combat techniques. This early training emphasized not just physical development, but the moral and cultural foundations that would define knightly behavior. Around 14, promising pages advanced to become squires, entering intensive practical training under experienced knights. They learned advanced weapon techniques, armor maintenance, horse care, and battlefield tactics, while serving their masters in actual combat situations. This apprenticeship system ensured that only the most capable and dedicated individuals achieved full knighthood, typically around age 21, through elaborate ceremonies that emphasized both religious and secular obligations. The knight's equipment represented the cutting edge of medieval military technology. Mail hauberks gave way to articulated plate armor that could deflect arrows and sword blows while allowing surprising mobility. Knights mastered multiple weapons, the sword for close combat, the lance for mounted charges, maces and warhammers for crushing armor, and increasingly crossbows and early firearms as technology evolved. The destrier, the knight's warhorse, was as crucial to his effectiveness as any weapon. These massive animals, bred specifically for warfare, could carry an armored rider at full gallop while remaining controllable in battle. The combination of knight and horse created a mobile platform capable of delivering devastating shock attacks that could shatter enemy formations and pursue fleeing opponents. Knightly warfare reached its tactical zenith in the charge, a coordinated attack where ranks of heavy cavalry thundered toward enemy positions with lowered lances, their combined impact capable of breaking even well-disciplined infantry. This tactic dominated European battlefields for generations, making heavily armored cavalry the decisive arm in medieval warfare. The code of chivalry that governed knightly behavior established ideals of courage, honor, courtesy, and protection of the weak that influenced European culture far beyond military contexts. While reality often fell short of these ideals, the chivalric tradition created expectations of noble conduct that shaped medieval society and continues to influence Western concepts of heroism and honor. Knights proved their worth in countless conflicts: the Crusades, the 100 Years' War, internal feudal disputes, and battles against external invaders. Their tactical flexibility allowed adaptation to different enemies and conditions, from the desert warfare of the Holy Land to the siege warfare that characterized much of medieval combat. Despite eventual decline due to technological changes and evolving military organization, the medieval knight remains an enduring symbol of martial excellence and noble ideals. Their influence on military tradition, cultural values, and historical imagination far exceeds their relatively brief dominance of European warfare.
Number 4. Viking Berserkers. Among the frost-covered fjords and windswept islands of medieval Scandinavia emerged warriors whose very names struck terror into the hearts of enemies across Europe and beyond. The Viking Berserkers represented warfare's most primal and terrifying aspect, fighters who transcended normal human limitations through a combination of spiritual fervor, psychological conditioning, and possibly chemical enhancement. The etymology of berserker remains debated among scholars, with interpretations ranging from bear shirt, referencing the animal pelts they wore, to bear shirt, suggesting they fought without armor. What remains undisputed is that these warriors entered battle in an altered state of consciousness that transformed them into seemingly superhuman killing machines. Ancient Norse sagas describe the Berserker gang, the Berserkers' battle trance, in terms that border on the supernatural. Warriors in this state reportedly felt no pain, showed immunity to weapons, possessed incredible strength, and fought with the fury of wild animals. They howled, gnashed their teeth, and bit their shields while working themselves into this frenzy before battle. Modern historians propose various explanations for the Berserker phenomenon. Some suggest religious practices invoking animal spirits, particularly bears and wolves, which were sacred to Odin, the Norse god of war and death. Others theorize the consumption of psychoactive substances like mushrooms containing psilocybin or preparations from henbane. Still others point to psychological conditions or sophisticated mental conditioning techniques. Regardless of the mechanism, berserkers served as shock troops in Viking raids and battles. They formed the spearhead of attacks, charging enemy lines with terrifying battle cries and relentless aggression that often broke opposing formations before the main Viking force even engaged. Their reputation alone could demoralize enemies, as facing berserkers meant confronting warriors who seemed beyond human limitations. The berserkers' fighting style emphasized individual prowess over formation tactics. Rather than disciplined ranks, they excelled in single combat, champion duels, and situations requiring extraordinary personal courage. Norse sagas celebrate their individual feats of strength and bravery, cementing their status in Viking culture as elite warriors blessed by the gods. However, the same qualities that made berserkers feared also made them increasingly problematic as Scandinavian societies evolved. Their unpredictability and inability to control their battle rage made them difficult to integrate into more organized military structures. As kings centralized power and created professional armies, the wild berserker became more liability than asset. By the end of the Viking Age, berserkers had largely disappeared from Scandinavian warfare. Christianity's spread also contributed to their decline, as their practices were associated with pagan religious traditions. Yet their legacy endured in saga, song, and story, preserving the memory of warriors who embodied the wild, untamed spirit of the Viking Age.
Number 3. Roman Centurions. In the machinery of Roman conquest that dominated the ancient world for centuries, no component was more crucial than the centurions, the professional officers who transformed citizen soldiers into the most disciplined and effective fighting force history had yet witnessed. These men bridged the gap between common legionaries and high command, becoming the backbone upon which Roman military supremacy rested. The path to centurion rank demanded exceptional qualities that went far beyond mere combat prowess. Candidates required years of frontline service, documented acts of courage under fire, proven leadership abilities, and the respect of both superiors and subordinates. The selection process was ruthless, as commanders knew that centurions would often mean the difference between victory and catastrophe. A centurion commanded a century, typically 80 to 100 legionaries, though these numbers vary based on campaign requirements and battlefield losses. The Latin root centum, meaning 100, reflects the idealized unit size, though practical considerations often dictated different formations. What remained constant was the centurion's absolute authority and responsibility for his men's performance, discipline, and survival. Roman military records preserve the exploits of legendary centurions like Lucius Varenus and Titus Pullo, whom Julius Caesar praised as paragons of courage and military skill during the Gallic Wars. These men exemplified the centurion tradition of leading from the front, sharing every danger with their troops, while maintaining the iron discipline that made Roman legions unbreakable. The centurion's role extended beyond battlefield command to encompass training, logistics, and morale maintenance. They supervised the brutal Roman training regimens that transformed civilians into professional soldiers, ensured adequate supplies reached the front lines, and maintained the esprit de corps that motivated legionaries to fight for Rome and for each other. What distinguished Roman centurions from other military leaders was their balance of harsh discipline with genuine care for their soldiers' welfare. They shared the hardships of campaign life, understood the fears and motivations of common legionaries, and built the bonds of mutual trust and respect that made Roman armies so formidable. This leadership philosophy created military units that could endure defeats, regroup, and return to battle with undiminished determination. The legacy of Roman centurions extends far beyond their military achievements. They represented the Roman ideals of duty, discipline, and service that built an empire spanning 3 continents and lasting over a millennium. Their influence on military organization and leadership principles continues to shape modern armed forces worldwide.
Number 2. Persian Immortals. The Persian Empire's most elite fighting force earned their fearsome reputation through a combination of unwavering discipline, tactical brilliance, and psychological warfare that intimidated enemies across 3 continents. Known as the Amruta in Old Persian, meaning immortal, these warriors served as both the emperor's personal bodyguard and the spearhead of Persian military might. The Immortals maintained their legendary status through a simple yet brilliant organizational principle. Their numbers never wavered from exactly 10,000 men. Whenever battle, disease, or age claimed a warrior, another immediately took his place, creating the illusion that these soldiers could not die. This psychological warfare proved as effective as any weapon, as enemies faced an apparently indestructible force. Selection for the Immortals required extraordinary qualifications. Candidates underwent rigorous evaluation of their physical prowess, mental acuity, and absolute loyalty to the Persian crown. Once accepted, they received comprehensive training that transformed them into versatile killing machines, capable of fighting on foot or horseback, skilled with multiple weapon systems, and fluent in several languages for intelligence gathering and coordination. Their equipment reflected the Persian Empire's vast wealth and sophisticated military technology. Each immortal carried short spears for thrusting, curved swords for slashing combat, and composite bows for ranged attacks. Their defensive gear included wicker shields reinforced with metal and scale armor that provided protection
while maintaining mobility. This diverse arsenal allowed them to adapt to any battlefield situation. The Immortals proved their worth in countless campaigns that expanded Persian dominion from India to Egypt to the gates of Greece. Under Cyrus the Great, they spearheaded the conquest of Babylon and Lydia, establishing Persia as the dominant power of the ancient world. Their disciplined formations and relentless advance became the nightmare of enemy commanders across the known world. At Thermopylae, the Immortals faced their greatest test against Leonidas and his Spartans, though they ultimately prevailed through sheer numbers and tactical maneuvering. The fierce resistance they encountered demonstrated that even these elite warriors could bleed and die like mortal men. Beyond their martial prowess, the Immortals served as living symbols of Persian imperial grandeur. Their uniforms blazed with gold and precious jewels, their weapons gleamed with artistic craftsmanship, and their bearing reflected the confidence of an empire that spanned continents. This visual splendor was itself a weapon, displaying Persian wealth and power to both subjects and enemies.
Number 1. Spartan Hoplites of ancient Greece. In the mountainous landscape of ancient Greece, the city-state of Sparta forged what many consider the most formidable fighting force the ancient world ever witnessed. The Spartan Hoplites emerged from a society that elevated warfare to an art form, where strength and valor were not merely admired, but worshipped as divine virtues. From the moment of their birth, Spartan males were destined for the battlefield. The agoge, Sparta's legendary training system, began when boys reached their 7th year and continued relentlessly into their early 20s. This was not merely military instruction, but a complete transformation of human potential. Young warriors endured deliberate starvation, brutal weather, and psychological torment designed to forge unbreakable resilience and absolute self-reliance. The hallmark of Spartan warfare was the phalanx formation, a tactical masterpiece that turned individual soldiers into components of an unstoppable war machine. Each hoplite bore a long spear, a short sword for close combat, and most importantly, the hoplon, a massive bronze shield that was both personal armor and communal protection. The phalanx moved as one organism, a wall of bronze and iron that could absorb tremendous punishment before unleashing devastating counterattacks. Their military genius reached its zenith at Thermopylae in 480 BCE, where King Leonidas and his 300 Spartans, alongside Greek allies, held the narrow pass against Xerxes' massive Persian invasion force. For 3 days, this small band demonstrated that superior training and unshakable will could challenge even impossible odds. Though ultimately falling, their sacrifice became the stuff of legend. The Spartan battle cry, "Come back with your shield or on it," revealed the depth of their martial culture. The shield was sacred, not just as protection, but as a duty to one's brothers in arms. To abandon it meant abandoning one's comrades, a disgrace worse than death itself. The psychological impact of Spartan hoplites extended far beyond their actual battlefield presence. Enemies often surrendered before fighting began, knowing they faced warriors who viewed death in battle as the highest honor. The very word Spartan became synonymous with discipline, courage, and military excellence, a reputation that echoes through 25 centuries to this day.